Hello and welcome to Access Sportsnet Lakers, brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealer. Chris McGee, Big Game James Worthy, Karan Butler. We got Michael Bresnahan over here. We got Mike Trudell down the hall. We got Allie working remotely at home. The whole crew is together. And this is going to be a fun one. 1-1. I know you guys like Game 3s. We're going to get right into it. The Lakers did even up the series on Sunday night, 1 apiece, beating the Rockets 117-109. Lakers shot a blistering 57% from the field, 44% from three. They were led, of course, by their two superstars, LeBron James, AD. They both had double-doubles. They combined for 62 points. So let's take a look at the playoff bracket, starting with the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics, after Toronto came back to win 2 in a row and tie it up, now lead 3-2. Dominant performance yesterday. Milwaukee Bucks clinging down 3-1. No Giannis in this one. That game is going on as we speak. That's going to be real tough for Milwaukee. Look at the West. Good game last night. Clippers-Nuggets. Nuggets were up 10 late in that third. Paul George having himself a game. Clippers now lead 2-1, and there it is, 1-1. Lakers and the Houston Rockets. So, guys, Game 3 of a series always seems to be that pivotal game. What was your mindset going into games like this? How important, how crucial to kind of gain that edge and that advantage?
Ready to go. No thinking that much. You played 2 games. You kind of know what they're doing. You made some adjustments. Now it's like game on. So you come out and try to establish yourself like they did in Game 2. I thought the defense was outstanding. I think Game 3 is all about execution on both ends of the floor. I mean, you're going to make some minor adjustments, but you kind of know where the team is coming from as far as what they're running. And Houston doesn't deviate too much from their style. So I think it's game on now. Look at what you did great in Game 2 and continue to smash.
Interesting, the psyche of it all, Karan. Think about it. Houston would be elated usually. 1-1. We won 1 at Staples. Let's go to Houston for 2. We're going to. But now everyone's just playing on the same court.
Yeah, it really is. It's interesting because, as Big Game said, you know, your sense of urgency and your disposition has to be right, but percentages always favor the team that win that third game. You know, so if you go up 2-1 in the best of 7, that game 3 is paramount. So you're going to get everyone's best effort. And, you know, kudos to the Lakers for doing a remarkable job defensively on shutting down the problem in Russell Westbrook in Game 2.
Yeah, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what you expect here in Game 3 because, Karan, you just hit on it. Defense was key in this game. Outside of the third quarter, the Lakers were pretty dominant defensively, showing all kinds of different looks, zones, traps, getting the ball out of Harden's hands, kind of figured out the puzzle a little bit.
Well, I think you got to muck it up because you can't give a traditional look to non-traditional players offensively. When you look at James Harden going downhill, Russell Westbrook, I love the fact that they baited him into taking the jump shot because they took away the drive. That's his strong suit. But then on the perimeter, when he was trying to get to the drive and get the going downhill, it was always a body. It was activity. They met him at the rim. They sent multiple bodies at him. The rotation was good. And look, he made a ton of plays. He just made them for us. So you have to continue to do that and make it hard for him.
Yeah. Multiple defensive looks creates more thinking. You got to think about what to do now as opposed to just playing your game, doing your thing, with the exception of that third quarter where they got hot. 41 points. 17 points in the fourth quarter was extremely disruptive. I give a lot of kudos to Rondo, who's a genius in the playoffs.
Yeah, we're going to talk to him for
you
sure.
know, not too many people can strip Harden. And I saw that one play where he's been studying videos and kind of seeing how Harden, and I thought Rondo did a good job of pushing him in the right direction too defensively and making sure that there was collective effort. I just think Rondo was the MVP of that game, despite what, you know, Davis and LeBron were able to do.
Fresh legs.
Yeah, concur with that. And like you said, he only played one game in 6 months. It happened to be 2 days before that. We're going to dedicate a whole segment to Rondo and Westbrook. I think it was that important. What's interesting is we talked a lot about Game 1. When you looked at the stats, you thought the Lakers would dominate, rebounding, points in the paint. They didn't. They did in Game 2. The Rockets won Game 1 with only 14 threes. They didn't win hitting 22 threes. It's just, it's interesting how that ebb and flow goes.
Yeah, you know, you put all the attention on Russell Westbrook, but a player that's been on fire is Eric Gordon.
Yeah,
so he's been playing remarkably well, and he's offsetted a lot of things for James Harden and Russell to be the best version of themselves. But you fast forward to Game 2, the dominance of AD and LeBron James, 60-plus points. I mean, they're 16-1 in those games. So if they continue to do that in Game 3, it'd be huge.
Yeah, if they take care of the basketball, win the points in the paint war like they should, and that rebounding battle, it's okay to give up maybe some more threes because it feels like you're going to come out on the winning side of it, James.
Yeah, well, you can see in Game 2, the 41 points in the third, and the defense collapsed, 17 in the fourth. But I think Game 1, they made the adjustments. And like you said, Geeter, you know, AD attack, the ball movement was different. They weren't standing around. They weren't spectating. So I think, you know, with that, you know, confidence, Game 2, yeah, you're going to give up some threes because that's what they do. But for the most part in Game 1, they played right into Houston's hand. Houston spread that floor. They made the bigs go out to the three and defend. And then when the ball goes up, it's a foot race, you know, to that rebound. And Tucker's going to win that every time. So they played an unorthodox style, took out the bigs. I think Game 2, they made the right adjustments.
People panicking about that third quarter. Let me fill you in on something. When the Rockets, who are very capable, go 8 of 9 from 3, they're back in the ball game. Don't matter who they're playing, right? It's basketball.
Don't panic, though, because they'll give you up. You know, just like they score 40-plus points in the third quarter, they'll give you 40-plus points.
That's why I was very impressed with how the Lakers just...
Got to get Karan on the patient game.
Patient panic game?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to play that with him next time. Right now, for more on tonight's matchup, let's check in with the Lakers reporter, Mike Trudell. He's standing by with the latest. Mike, what is going on, my friend?
Hey, guys, what's happening? You know, you were just talking about that three-point barrage in the third quarter, and I think the thing that was concerning for the Lakers, it was a bunch of missed assignments, right? They just doubled off of Eric Gordon for no good reason. He had just hit 3 threes in the second quarter. They double off him. He gets 2 wide-open looks. Then they don't check P.J. Tucker in transition, and that's what got everything going. So a lot of areas that they can just simply improve on by doing the right thing according to the game plan, and that's something they spent some time in the film room on. Now, one injury note that's going to lead into Frank Vogel here. Danuel House, I shouldn't say injury note, it's a personal note, in fact. Danuel House Jr. is going to be out for this game due to personal reasons. Now, Mike D'Antoni said it was not due to COVID-19, didn't want to elaborate further. We certainly hope that all is well with Danuel House and everything like that. But from a game standpoint, that's a player that they're going to miss. He played 27 minutes off the bench, really good two-way wing. So I started with Frank Vogel a couple minutes ago asking how that might impact the way that they look ahead at this Game 3.
Yeah, well, he's one of their main rotational players, and you know, he's hurt us in the first couple games. So you know, his absence will be missed, I'm sure, on their end. But you know, I would assume that Ben McLemore and Austin Rivers get more run, and you know, those guys are excellent players themselves. So you know, hopefully, you know, well, from their standpoint, you know, I'm sure they feel like they'll have a next man up mentality and pick up the slack.
You know, Frank, I know you don't love to get into specifics of what you're looking at changing or evolving in terms of game plan, but what are the things from 1 to 2, from games 1 to 2? What did you see of the differences that you think could apply for this one?
Well, we definitely did some things differently from game 1 to game 2, and going into game 3, we'll continue to try to grow with our creativity as well as, you know, just tightening up, you know, the plan we used in game 2 and doing some things slightly differently and in some ways just doing some things better.
Hey Frank, it's Dave. What's the status for JaVale and Dion? And if you know, can play, is there a minute restriction? And then follow up on top of that, the last game the plan was to play Dwight, but Markeith played so well that you went away from Dwight. Could you also address how you plan on using backup bigs?
Yeah, well, JaVale is available. Dion is not available. Dion is out. There's no minutes restriction on JaVale McGee, and you know, I'm gonna refrain from letting you guys know how I'm gonna use my rotation. You know, we have to see it play out during the game.
All right, so Frank Vogel still keeping things close to the vest there. Would be surprised if JaVale didn't start, just given the fact that he's available, and that's what they have gone with. And those lineups have worked just fine, Geeter. But again, the most interesting thing to me is how they can shore up a few of those little rotation things to make sure they're not giving up shots to the wrong guys. That's an easy fix that they can make with a little bit more discipline. Houston's going to play the way they play, right? They're not going to necessarily make a bunch of adjustments. So you could think there that the Lakers get a little bit better every game.
Mike, I love that he keeps it close to the vest with the entire media. You just keep getting those texts from him and sharing them with me. I appreciate that.
All right, guys.
All right.
See you later, Geeter.
All right, Mike. Our projected starting lineups for game number 3 sounds like the Lakers most likely are They're going with this, right? JaVale, Anthony Davis, Danny on access as we take a look at the remaining series schedule for the Lakers and Rockets. We got Game 3 coming up tonight, top of the hour. Game 4 is set for Thursday. Game 5 is Saturday. And then after that, we'll worry about it. But you got a Game 6 and 7. After that, will we get there? We shall see. Time now for Brez's three-point play. 3 things you're thinking about, you're looking at.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Bresnahan. The first one is all defensive teams came out.
Yeah, some
Thoughts?
breaking news just happened a couple hours ago. And AD, indeed, first team all defense. No real surprise there. The first Laker to make first team on the defensive side since Kobe in 2011. There you are, some numbers there. 4th time for AD. Gobert, by the way, 4 years in a row on that first team. Marcus Smart, 2 years in a row. And Ben Simmons, nice little leap for him, kind of dislodging Patrick Beverley and a couple of the pretty good defensive guards to be the first, to make it the first time he is all defense. LeBron and Avery Bradley got some votes for the Lakers, but not first or second team for either of those guys. And Geet, if I may, I'm still a little irritated how AD got only 14 first place votes. Safe place. Are we in the trust tree?
Yes.
Okay, 100 journalists voted on the Defensive Player of the Year award a few weeks ago. AD got 14 first-place votes. I don't quite see how that happened. I've been meaning to talk to you about it for a while. I'm sorry it's coming out on air, but here we are.
No, I mean, I feel the same way as you. I always think of the head-to-head and the way I saw him play against Gobert and the way he played against Giannis. Listen, Giannis is having a phenomenal season, MVP-type season. Not going to take anything away from him, but I did expect AD and Giannis to have a much closer race. Way closer. 14 votes surprised me. Avery Bradley getting 1 for the second team.
Yeah.
Huge surprise as well.
I'm with you. But at least AD and Giannis both first team all defense, so AD does have that. And maybe it'll be a little motivation for him going forward that he was that far behind in the DPOY voting.
I don't have any complaints for that first team. Those are all 5 great defenders. So Game 2. Russ.
Yeah.
They dare him to shoot.
Yeah.
Didn't deliver. Rondo. Dare him to shoot. He delivers.
He did pretty well. Yeah. It's kind of a we dare you for both those teams. I mean, definitely nothing new for Rondo. A team kind of sagging off him, hoping he shoots a 3-ball. That wasn't working for him the other night, but he did some pretty good things. He did finish with 10 points and 9 assists, plus 28 in the plus-minus. That is crazy, Geet. But Rondo has been seeing this for years now, and not a huge surprise for him. This was kind of surprising. Lakers kind of laying off Russell Westbrook a little bit. Not quite daring him, but kind of sort of daring him as well to shoot that 3. He was 1 for 7 behind the arc the other night. That was not pretty right there, kind of ugly. And by the way, he was 26% behind the arc during the regular season. It's kind of a good strategy by the Lakers. See how it goes.
Most 3-point attempts for him this season since Christmas.
Yeah, that was a lot. And only his, 3rd game back, 4th game back from that quad injury that sidelined him a couple weeks. Might have been pressing it a little too much the other day. It showed. You
have to give up something, and that's what the Lakers were willing to give up. Smart move.
It worked.
LeBron was a little different in the 4th quarter. Game 2, is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that game 1 scoreless in the 4th quarter. Only the 3rd time ever for him in a playoff game. Not the case the other night in Game 2. Right away, 2 dunks, 2 huge dunks in the first 2 minutes of that 4th quarter. There's a little double clutch right there for you. He'd also grab a little alley-oop dunk to make it happen. It played some pretty good D, too. That reminded me of you on the beach volleyball court right there, Geet. The shot to the stands. Yeah, he was solid.
Kind of iced it a little bit right there.
Yeah, 8 points in that 4th quarter. Good defensively as well. There's that alley-oop dunk. That was about 2 minutes in to that 4th. The Lakers got rid of that 2-point deficit really quickly going into that quarter. He was strong that night. AD, good start, by the way. 11 points in the first. 2 good bookends right there from both those guys.
Game 1 just seemed like an outlier. That stat line right there just seems a little bit more like what we're used to 100%. Seeing for his entire career.
Yeah, he was determined. He knew he was going to make it happen. And
his final line in 29 minutes, 10 points on 4 of 9 shooting, 9 assists, 5 steals, plus 28 in the plus-minus. Following Game 2, LeBron and Frank Vogel spoke about Rondo's impact.
Yeah, I think he was just, extremely aggressive, not only offensively but defensively, taking the challenge on James, taking the challenge on whoever he was guarding, but just trying to lead. I mean, that's what Doe is. He's a leader, and for us to have him back in the postseason, it's a key for our team. And he comes in, he pushes the tempo, he gets guys involved, and that doesn't always show up in the stat sheet with Doe. The intangibles that he does offensively and defensively. His nose is always around the ball, and he just makes plays for us. And tonight was another example of that.
And Game 1 is his first game in 6 months or something like that. So, you know, you have to forgive a little bit of rust, and you know, he has such an impact. His impact on our team is measured in swag, you know, and just the confidence that he brings to our group. And you saw that he was a plus 28 tonight. You know, took the assignment of guarding James and guarding Russ at certain times, and really wreaked havoc defensively for us. You know, both on the ball and then, you know, helping us mix coverages and those types of things, and just trying to, we have to try to keep this team off guard. And, you know, obviously he did a great job with that, kept his turnovers low, had a lot of assists, just a great Rondo performance.
Playoff Rondo was real on Sunday night. He was awesome, and you heard LeBron talk about it, picking up Harden full court, the plus 28, all of it. The question is, can he do it again? Can he be consistent in that role? They need him to be.
No doubt. I mean, he's proven, I mean, even in New Orleans, I think maybe during the Portland series against, you know, some pretty dynamic guards, that he is a playoff player. You know, I get on him sometimes during the regular season because, you know, I don't feel like he's all engaged, but I get it now. He's a playoff player. And what you get, Geeter, is something the Lakers don't have. I mean, LeBron, he's a great distributor, great, you know, point guard, so to speak, big wing guard. This is a true point guard right here who understands the ratio. If it wasn't for Rondo, I'm not sure Morris would have got off like he did. Danny Green wouldn't have got a couple of good shots. He keeps his dribble alive. He finds Kuz. He's a smart basketball player. So when he's out there, not only does he, you know, play well with his physical nature, but he's thinking the game out and he calms everybody down. We miss Avery Bradley, but people forgot about Rondo. He's a playoff player.
I think he's so dialed in to the tendencies of his players as well as the opponents. Mm-hmm. So he does a remarkable job, like Big Game just touched on, you know, understanding that, oh, wow, Kuz ran up the court 3-4 times, haven't touched the basketball. Let me get him a quality look. Morris as well. So having that floor general out there, one of the last in the league out there like that, is special.
I want to ask you this, Karan and James. Frank Vogel mentioned it. Rondo's impact measured in swag and confidence, right? Maybe the average fan might not know what that means. How important is that in a locker room? Explain it.
Man, listen, he just comes out with a winning edge to him. You know, he feels like, you know what, we're better than everyone else, and he plays that way. He's not backing down from any defensive challenge, as you see him just stealing the ball and making it look effortless, coming down, throwing the no-look pass, and putting people in their, you know, their chest positions. And I love the fact that he stands up to the challenges when you're talking about slowing a guy like James Harden down. Now, you're not going to stop him, but you're going to slow him down with a guy like Rondo because he pays attention to the tendencies.
Yeah, you're not going to stop a guy like Harden, but when Harden knows someone is sticky, kind of sticking to him, when's the last time you seen Harden get stripped? You know, because I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure Rondo's the type of guy that looks at a lot of film, looks at his opponent, and he probably picked up on a certain move and he stuck his hand right in there. That's not by accident. This man knows the game. And so when you have a defender like that, it disrupts the way you play. So, you know, you can't stop him, but you can have an offensive player start thinking differently, and then you've made him react. And I think that's what Rondo does. He doesn't wait to react. He makes the offensive player react, and then the defense kind of comes into play after that.
Listen, when you have a magical nickname like Playoff Rondo, guys want to follow that. True or not, guys want to follow that. And I want to go to Russell Westbrook now, because you go to the opposite side of the spectrum. It's funny, you and I were talking before the show. Yeah. We immediately felt the same way, like, hold on, let's not. It doesn't mean Westbrook's not going to play good ever again. Like, this guy is a former MVP. He's one of the biggest competitors in the league. The Lakers played it right. He struggled from three, but don't be shocked if he has a bounce-back game, because look at this right here, 1 for 7. He's 26% from three on the season. Karan, he just kept firing away.
Geeter, as we're looking at these stats, you best believe Russ has looked at these stats as well.
7 turnovers.
Look, he's like, you know what? I have to be better. And you look back at that game from our standpoint, we did a remarkable job by committee slowing him down, keeping bodies in front of him and keeping his offensive surge in front of us. But in his eyes, he's looking at it like, you know what? I have to go harder. I got to go faster. I have to be more explosive. And D'Antoni are going to seek him out in some offensive areas to put him in position to be disruptive. So Look, he's going to try to have a big game. I know he's not shy. He's going to shoot the ball a lot. And, you know, if that shot falling, it opens up a lot of problems.
In big game, he said something before the show that hit me as well. He was in foul trouble. 5 foul, and that can throw you off in a lot of different ways as well. And then you're turning the ball over. You're missing from 3. It's just this, right?
Yeah. Foul trouble can hold you back a little bit. You're not as aggressive as you like to be. You're scared to pick up a charge. You don't want to defend. So, yeah, it had a little bit to do, but Westbrook is a player. He don't care. He can go 0 for the rest of his life, and he'll come back the next game like nothing happened. And the thing that's scary about him, and Karan and I were talking about this a little bit, if he starts to get that 15-footer going, where he can back you up and pull up, that's where he's most dangerous.
I'm glad they frown on that in Houston.
You got to find a way.
With you.
You got to find a way to recognize that he is here. He might not have had the best of games in the bubble, but you don't want to let him get explosive.
And also, they had their most success in that third quarter when he was in foul trouble and when he was out.
I know.
With House Jr.
I know.
So he's going to try to pick up that slack.
Yeah. When they play like that, the Lakers are a problem. Period. They win, James, and that's what it's going to take for this team to win a championship.
Yeah, you definitely need your two, dynamite players to do what they did in Game 2, especially AD, who was not as aggressive in Game 1. Let Tucker push him out of the post. Wasn't really meeting force with force, but in Game 2, right away, you saw that he attacked. He didn't wait to see what the defense was doing, and that's what you have to do. That's where it starts. And then you come in with your supply players, Rondo, Kuz, Morris. It becomes contagious. When I used to see Kareem ready in the first quarter, when I saw him throwing those sky hooks right away, I got pumped up. It made me want to play. So when your top dogs are getting it done, it's contagious for the rest of the team.
I think when AD comes out, because LeBron's going to be LeBron. He's going to facilitate. He's always in the moment. But when Anthony Davis is playing that aggressive, he's taking advantage of a mismatch every time because usually you got P.J. Tucker on him. To his credit, he's amazing defensively, but he can't guard Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
So now you got all that defense and that attention coming at AD, and now all the others. You talk about utility guys. They're just having open looks.
Open looks. I was glad Brez brought up in his three-point play about LeBron in that fourth quarter because it was a story. I think we were all surprised. You were the one that pointed out to me. We were all sitting here that first night in Game 1 like, LeBron hasn't scored in the fourth quarter. We looked and he was 0 for 3. I was like, can you slap me? Did that really? Yeah. So I like that he brought it up because they changed the narrative quickly. Don't let that fester. Did they sense the urgency, you think?
I think
LeBron and AD?
I think so, and I think LeBron did as well because you think about James Harden, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook on the court. And I know LeBron is probably the oldest out of all of them. Yeah. Now, I know he is, but he looked the youngest. When he came out, just the way he was moving around, his activity defensively, he was running the length of the floor, he was catching lobs, he gave him 5 times that. Big game, you rolling when you give 5 slaps. Yeah. You rolling, you know what I mean? Like your energy was, he was feeling a little different about himself.
Yeah, and especially after the third quarter, you forget that third quarter the Rockets had. The Lakers are rolling, all of a sudden the Rockets are leading going into the fourth, and LeBron and AD, that flip had to switch again.
No doubt. When you have that competitive spirit like LeBron has had his whole career, man, that never leaves you. If you're healthy, you're going to have that on the court. He's in great shape. He knows he's the leader. And the thing is that, there's no advantage in that bubble. So you're talking about the sense of urgency. Yeah, it was a sense of urgency because, the Rockets will always have the advantage in that bubble. Obviously, they don't get to go home to their own court. But I think the sense of urgency was there in Game 2 for sure.
James Harden, as we switch gears, he's so difficult to defend. It's hard to defend him without fouling. It's hard to officiate him if you're a referee. Vogel said it best, I think. You have to mix up your pitches with him. You have to throw him different looks. Trapping early, trapping late, getting the ball out of his hands, getting the ball out of hands early, all that stuff, right? Zone, that's part of it.
Yeah, it's making them work, like wearing on them. Well, first of all, on the defensive end of the floor, not letting him, bail out. So when you saw Anthony Davis and he saw James Harden on him, he was trying to pound it into the paint, or just be aggressive where he had to do something. So that takes your legs away from you. And then offensively, as you just touched on, they're throwing a lot of different looks at him, just trying to confuse him, make him think a little bit, rush some situations. And I thought they did a remarkable job.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they blitz him early, James, to get the ball out early in the shot clock. Sometimes they trap him late to get it out late. It's a really interesting game of chess you have to play.
That was always the rule back in the day. If a scoring guard came off of a pick and roll, there was never a switch. It was a trap. You make him pick that ball up, don't let him split. You make him pick it up and get it to somebody else and then try to deny him. But I thought the looks were amazing. Sometimes they forced him to the side to the help. Sometimes they blitzed it, trapped. McGee came up a lot of times early, when he was about to make his move. So anytime you can make a scorer think and also run down the shot clock a little bit, take maybe 7 seconds for them to figure out what you're doing, that's good defense.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see higher screens 3/4 of the court, to get, defense off of him. So he's going downhill at the 4 to 5 of the
That's when he's unstoppable.
Yes.
That's when he's unstoppable. All right, speaking of James Harden, following yesterday's practice, he seemed to be happy about the Lakers' decision to use the zone defense against him.
Yeah, of course. Of course. We're so good, man, that the team's got to throw in traps or throw in zones or whatnot. So we just got to do what we do. The zone or trap that kind of should gets us more excited because we're going to have more shot opportunities. Guys that around me and Russ are going to have more shot opportunities, more opportunities to get going offensively, and that's what we want because offensively, me and Russ are able to get any shot we want to at any time. So, we watch film on the traps and the zones and things like that, ways that we can attack it, and tomorrow we'll be better at it.
Waiting patiently to get into the show, Allie Clifton. Hi, Allie. How are you?
Hello, I'm great.
Great to have you. Lakers again will look to find ways to limit James Harden. Here we are, 1-1. The chess game continues, Allie.
I love that you guys led to me with that soundbite because I actually was just reading a story about James Harden, how he went and met with Russ after game 2, and they just kind of got back on the same page, wanted to talk about accountability of one another, wanted to make sure that the confidence remained in place. And actually coming out of that conversation, they say they're even more confident. And it's kind of interesting because I felt the Lakers did such a great job. You guys just touched on it. If they're able to replicate what they did in game 2 against James Harden, they put themselves in a great position to win game 3. One insight that I thought Mark Jackson gave us during that telecast in game 2 was Rajon Rondo, when he was on the floor at the point of attack defensively. They're talking about mixing up coverages with James Harden. They would start in that zone, and then midway through that defensive possession, he would yell, man. And so I think it's an example of that unsteady diet that they're trying to throw at him. And again, 27 points, that's 7 below his average. You can live with that. There's a reason why he's a 2-time MVP. I guess he's not defending, but a 2-time MVP because he's that great on offense. He's mastered, of course, the ability to draw the foul. He's averaged about 12.5 free throw attempts a game. So what are you going to give up? I think the Lakers have nailed it and nailed it there in game 2 with their defensive game plan.
And listen, it's not just Russ and Westbrook. I mean, people have to know how good this Houston team is. And one guy that he doesn't surprise anybody because if you watch enough NBA, you know how good he is. It's Eric Gordon. He's having himself a great series. 23 in game 1, 24 in game 2.
And it's not by design that he has found his rhythm and flow. Of course, it's the first time in his career that he's put up 3 straight playoff performances or games in general of 20-plus, dating back to that Game 7 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But this is when you listen to people who have played the game, experts, analysts like James Worthy, Caron Butler, the guys that we have on our show, and they talk about 5 men on a string defensively. It's not just about the defensive attack at the head of the snake, but it's that second and third effort on the defensive side of the ball. And that's where Houston is so good because, as James just talked about, James Harden, they are knowing what is coming at them just about every time. They've seen it all in terms of defensive schemes. So guys like Eric Gordon, guys like PJ Tucker, they're ready to step up and knock down that 3 ball. And that's where they can beat you and that they're deadly with. So I think if the energy, the effort, and of course the arms, the activity on the defensive end can increase just a bit here in game 3 for the Lakers, 5 men on a string, starts at the top all the way to that 5-man. Again, they put themselves in a good chance to be successful.
Hey Allie, I noticed you mentioned Caron and I's great career, but you didn't mention Brez's great career at Buckley.
You know, some things are okay left unsaid.
Some things that people already know. I get it.
Just putting it out there.
I just love that you threw out Buckley. Big game, man. Griffins. Big game.
I also know that our entire viewership has seen Brez get into defensive stance. So I need some credibility.
Don't mess with the. Don't mess with
Forgot about that, Alex.
So don't mess with the claw. That's what Kawhi and Brez, very similar defensive stature. Allie, enjoy your dinner, enjoy the game. We'll see you in the post-game show.
Thanks, guys. I'll be watching you.
All right, we're getting closer to tip-off in the bubble, mid-season. Pickup Robert Covington has made an impact both ends of the floor in this series. He's knocking down series against the Blazers. The Lakers tied up the series after dropping Game 1. A big reason for that Game 2 victory was the Lakers' dynamic duo of LeBron and AD. The two stars combined for 62 points. It was the third time in these playoffs the pair scored 60 or more. The Lakers are 16-1 this season when they combine for 60 or more points. The King of the Brow, they weren't the only ones contributing. 41 points came off the Lakers bench. Playoff Rondo was in full swing. 10 points, 9 assists, 5 steals. Not to be outdone, Markieff Morris went 4 for 4 from deep in the first quarter, finishing with 16. Kyle Kuzma, tacked on 13 points. Now, whether it's the stars or the bench, the Lakers will need a team effort to stop the Rockets tonight. Like in Game 1, James Harden and Russell Westbrook have the ability to take over a game. Harden's averaging 31.5 points in this series. He's shooting 50% from the three-point line. And despite Westbrook's Game 2 struggles, he averaged 38 points against the Lakers in the regular season. Can't forget that. Time now for the little Access 360. Karan, the Laker bench delivered in Game 2.
Yeah, they really did. And you know what? We always talk about the dynamic duo of AD and King James, and rightfully so, but the others need a little credit. So we're going to shine a little light on them and what they've been doing, you know, in the first 2 games. And look at Rondo. He's back, being aggressive, efficient. Big game talk about having that general out there on the floor. There's not no easy pass either. See, it's in the left hand. He's gathering all the attention of the Houston Rockets. He's going downhill. He's going to zip it right over to Kuzma. And let's face it, that's a tough pass for, you know, anyone to make, but not Rondo. That's a routine look for him. He does a remarkable job defensively, drawing 2 to Harden, going back, recovering. Look at the rotation. Caruso, excellent closeout. KYP, know your personnel. Covington, get out. Rondo, get back into the play. It ain't no fun if big homie can't have none. Look at King James running the length of the floor. Easy layup. And once again, Rondo with the ball in his hand again. He's going to recognize that Rivers is trying to shade him to the baseline. He takes full advantage of it, gets into the teeth of the defense. Excellent kick out to Morris, and he's rolling. And Big Game touched on that, knowing that Morris needs to have his fingerprints on this game and put him in position to just do that. KCP driving down, and Kuz not staying, you know, in position, but staying active, not assuming anything, getting that tip in, 2 hands for safety, easy 2 points.
Great breakdown, putting it all out there for us. Big Game James, listen, when you have 3 Laker bench players in double figures, this team is almost unstoppable.
Yeah, the bench, you know, is vital, especially in the playoffs. And if they continue to produce like they have been, especially in that Game 2, I think this is what they need. This is a good trio right here. Kuzma, finally learning how to get shots and production without having plays called for him. 4 offensive rebounds, you know, 6 total. You got to like that. Morris, Rondo, knowing that he had hit 1 3, let me look for him a couple more times. Let me wear him down a little bit till he's cold. 2, 3, 3. So Rondo out there knowing where to get people involved, but the bench, critical as the Lakers go forward and they get into some better competition. Not saying that Houston is not, but as they progress, they're going to need that bench.
Brez, something he was saying before the show, Markieff Morris, this is what they brought him here for.
Yeah, no
a game
doubt.
like this.
Yeah, they were so happy when Detroit bottomed out back in February. Lakers said, hey, a guy who can hit threes, he can be tough on defense, kind of a bulldog out there. Let's bring him on in. He was kind of quiet in the playoffs, guys, before Game 2.